Private practice of 25 years. Her focus was primarily with individuals struggling with complex traumatic disorders. She is an ordained pastor, an international speaker, author, and founder of Restoring Mosaic, a ministry which seeks to educate and inform politicians, community leaders, and pastors across Canada. She is married with 6 children and 12 grandchildren. Her mission is to stand firm, walk cautiously, and live courageously. Dr. Gillies will be speaking to us today about the constant fear and trauma caused by the restrictions and how they impact the health of children. I might also add that Ann and I grew up in the same neighborhood, and we rode the school bus together, and I was one of her annoying little kids that bothered her at the back of the bus.
Yes, it is exciting to be back in my hometown. This is the first time I have ever spoken in my own hometown. So that's exciting. I did bring some notes because my mind is senior, But I want to say to you, first of all, that God did not give us a spirit of fear, but love, power, and soundness of mind. And I want to tell you all that there is an enemy out there that wants to rob us of those very things. We are living in a time of a contagion of fear. You know that. My whole life, my work has been in the area of trauma. And so I want to talk a little bit about that today. And my focus is, as Suzanne, the children. So I'm going to talk about safetyism. I'm going to talk about what is happening, what's happening to my grandson, for one thing. And then I'm going to talk about the effects of fear on your children. And we're going to talk about what you can do, because we have the same idea with the schools. So I hope that you'll get something out of this and that you'll take something away, but more than that, it will call you to act. We need to act as we were told. We need to do something concrete. So I just want to say, first of all, that safetyism is caused by fear, and this terror that people are fearing, it's this unknown, and that is almost the worst fear you can have. And it's interesting, you go into a store, right? And I haven't been wearing a mask lately. Anyways, I went to ask one of the clerks something, and she went like this. Do you see what's happened to people? That's the adults. The adults, the parents, are teaching their children. I've always been very adamant about this when I see parents and in counseling, or the children's in counseling, and the child is extremely fearful. I want to talk to the parents. In a normal society, this is not normal anymore, because I want to coach those parents in how to help their child mitigate those fears. First of all, they need to find out what they're afraid of. But in this day and age, we need to help the children. And how do you do that, first and foremost? You need to be courageous. If you're not courageous, they're going to follow you. So each one of you here today, you're making a statement to your children, to your grandchildren. You're making a stand that's not popular. And you're going to teach your children how to do that step by step. Don't, though, expect them to do things that parents won't even do. So be careful, because sometimes people are saying, oh, just make your kids go to school without a mask, do all that. Well, think that through. Some children are not ready for that kind of responsibility, because some parents aren't ready for that kind of responsibility. Hello. So be careful there. But I'm going to say some other things about fear, because it affects physical, your mental, your spiritual, your emotional, everything. It affects you to the very core. And what we're seeing is that contagion of fear affecting our society. It weakens our immune system, for one thing. Fear weakens your immune system. It also impairs your long-term memory. So for us senior citizens who already have some impairment, don't go into fear. Because guess what? It's going to make it worse. Because it affects your memory. It actually damages part of the brain. And anyone who's worked with children who've been subjected to incredible trauma understands how fear shuts them down. It shuts them down. And it shuts their brain down. Now, it can also make you want to run away, but I'm talking about the fear, the terror that is like freezing. And that's happening with our kids. It impairs our mental health. And you know, when that fear is constant, there's this constant sense of hyper arousal. And we're seeing that in children. They're constantly impacted by the fear in our society. And that hyper arousal doesn't shut down, so they're emotionally like this inside, quaking inside. It's like being in the Second World War and the bombs are coming. Now, maybe that's a bit extreme, only on one hand. Every day they're experiencing and they're subjected to fear. People wearing masks. You know what masks do? They hide your face, right? They dehumanize you. From the youngest child, when this first started, the first masking went on, I was horrified to see parents holding their babies and the parent was wearing a mask. Do you know what that does to the child? Emotionally growing up, a baby in arms looking at that, they can't read the expression of their parents. They can't tell. It is so fundamental to our well-being. So we have to move forward on the masks. I want to tell you a story of my grandson. He's 16, and this is how ludicrous this is, this terror, and how it's affected people. So he was in shop class. It finished. It was lunchtime. The rest of the class went out the front door. Him and 4 friends he works with went out the back door into the backyard of the school. And at the backyard of the school, over the fence, was where the smokers were and all that, right? So they were hanging out over there, no masks. And my grandson and his 4 friends decided, we're at the back. There's nobody else around. They work on a farm together. They're together a lot. Let's not wear masks. So the next thing that they saw is their principal just beelining it across the schoolyard. She came in front of them and yelled at them and said, "Who left that door open?" Because they had to put a block in the door so they could get back in that way. "Who left the door open?" And my grandson said, "Well, I did that." And she said, "Do you know what you're doing? You're killing people. You are killing people. You are letting those COVID germs into that classroom by leaving the door open." I kid you not. When his mom told me what this principal, she should be fired on the spot. Fired on the spot. The mom is a teacher there. And this happened last summer. And so she made a decision, do I pursue this or not? And she chose not to at the time, and I get that. I get that. But her son, he's a fighter, and I'm so proud of him, because he will stand. He's not going to be taken advantage of. And we need to teach our children how to stand. But that is how radical people are. This is a principal. She had no right. She had no information. Her information was all wrong. And she's doing this. So what else is happening in the classroom? Teachers are being forced to mask sobbing 5-year-olds. Sobbing 5-year-olds. Put masks on these sobbing children. That's abusive. That's abusive. We need to get them out of the schools. Okay, so and I think this might be the study that was being spoken of before. Maybe it's a different one. So a recent meta-analysis of 65 peer-reviewed scientific studies. Peer-reviewed is very, very good, just so you know. Peer-reviewed scientific studies show some serious dangers concerning masks. They now have a word for it. It's called Induced Exhaustion Syndrome. It's MIES. So there's always acronyms for everything, right? So Induced Exhaustion Syndrome. So these are the symptoms. So watch for these with your kids. And we need, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do about it. So the symptoms vary from high carbon dioxide, dizziness, exhausted breathing and heartbeat, so the heart feels sluggish, toxicity, inflammation, increased levels of stress hormone, anxiety, anger, headache, slow thinking, and drowsiness. So if you have seen some big changes physically in your children, pay attention to them. Masks, we all agree with this here, masks are unhealthy. And you know what? If there was any benefit for adults, that's sketchy, but it's even less for children. And so, according to Vital Statistics Canada, so I read that 2 children in Canada have died since January 2020 till October 31st. 2 of COVID. 17 have died related to COVID. You have to watch the words, right? 2 children in all of Canada in almost 2 years. There is no need for the vaccination. Keep our children safe. Leave them alone. So we have some things prepared. We're gonna take some things back. We need to take back the schools anyways. Let me tell you, although COVID is not my lane, the lane I swim in, I have been on a different kind of warpath for many years, and that is the corruption in academia. Science, the science that you read about anything that is popular in the society right now, double check everything, triple check it, because the stats are usually skewed. Anyways, it's a mess. So I'm kind of already on the alert, but for this, it's big time. So leave our kids alone. We need to offer opportunities for kids to calm themselves, but I also want to say to you, write our MP about the vaccination, absolutely. Write our premier, but I am encouraging you, parents particularly, and grandparents, if you have children in the public school system in Grey Bruce, then I am encouraging you to write a letter, and you will have to do this like Monday, but get it off Monday, to the Blue Water District School Board, and I will give you the email address. It's Bev Sims that takes these, and request an opportunity to speak at the next board meeting on December 7th. So that takes commitment. Now there's another step. So do that. They're going to ask you to prepare a 10-minute speech, which you'll have to hand in right away, so get thinking. That 10-minute speech on what we're talking about will probably mean that you won't be allowed to talk to the school board. I've tried to alert the school board 3 years ago about transgender ideology and the stuff that is also killing children and mutilating them, body mutilation, and they refused to let me speak. And I'm a professional. That is where that's one of the hills I die on, because I have the information they need to resource. They wouldn't let me even speak. To the school board members, they're adults, for goodness sakes. They can't handle the information. So the likelihood of you actually getting to speak is nil. So I have another plan. So 3 years ago, I wasn't nearly as bold as I am now, and I'm not as bold as some of you, believe me. I can quake in my boots. But 3 years ago, when they wouldn't let me speak to the school board, a group of friends, and some of you are here actually, I decided I was going to take my speech and go to the school board, and I was going to speak my mind anyways, and I was only one person, but there were about 50 people that joined me. So did it make any difference? I don't know. I got a lawsuit against them. And so what will happen if you send a letter and it isn't, you're not allowed to come and speak to them? Then we're going to join together in front of the school board office in Chesley on December 7th at 7 p.m. So it'll be cold, bundle up. We won't be there for hours because we will probably have a couple speakers or more than that, I don't know. But we need to let them know we're not backing down. We're not backing down. No, we're backing down to this kind of stuff. And let the teachers know as well. You can do this at your own schools as well if you want to. But really it's the school board that's directing things. So, okay, well, that's all for me today. Thank you. And onward and upward, everyone.